Last week on the programme, I interviewed a doctor from the world-famous Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, about her groundbreaking research into a new way of diagnosing breast cancer in women. This week, another side to this researcher, Dr. Deborah Rhodes, because she spends a significant part of her time working in Central Africa with women and young girls who've been subject to the most horrendous sexual violence.
So I work in the Democratic Republic of Congo with an extraordinary hospital called Panzi Hospital, run by Dr. Dennis Mukwege, and he has devoted his life to developing a medical refuge for girls and women who are survivors of the ongoing sexual violence, which is a principal weapon of war in the ongoing conflict in this country. And I became aware of his work through a patient, and I was so taken with the stories that she told me that I decided that I just had to do something as a citizen to not ignore this the magnitude of violence against girls and women that's going on a routine basis.
With presumably huge both physical and psychological aftermath.
It truly is destroying the fabric of village society there, which is a very female leader society, and so it's a very deliberate attack on the foundation of these villages, and just completely destroys families and communities and morale. Not to mention the horrific physical effects, often leading to lifelong incontinence for these girls and women who then can't go to school, can't hold down a job, and it literally ostracizes them from everything they know, and they have nowhere to go. And this hospital has become a refuge for these women, and many of them, in fact, live on the grounds of the hospital as they're awaiting surgery. And with very little in the way of resources, no running water, no fancy medical equipment at all, he and his team are able to do these life-restoring surgeries that are where he's able to reverse the incontinence. And I and a group from Mayo traveled there and have worked with him since that time, trying to focus attention on this issue from around the world, and also bring resources and collaboration to this hospital for the extraordinary work that they do.
Tell me some stories.
Well, the very first story was a story that I just couldn't get out of the story would not leave me. My patient had just traveled to this hospital, and this incident had just happened in May of 2009, and a baby had been, a little girl under the age of 1, had been raped, and someone had brought her to the doorstep of a woman who literally just picked her up and tried to carry her to this hospital. And by the time they arrived, this baby had died. And I couldn't live with that story. And so I have 2 daughters, and I just decided that I didn't want them growing up in a world that would look the other way. And so I just decided I was going to do something about it. And shortly after I heard this story, I met a woman who works for the United Nations as a representative for the ambassador for women and children affected by global warfare. And I had mentioned to her that I had been thinking and trying to read about this issue, and she said, the situation is far worse than you can possibly imagine. And I said, that's not possible. And I said, this is an unacceptable state of affairs. I knew nothing about this ongoing issue.
So what are you able to do?
And so I said to her, what can I do? And I fully expected her to say, there's nothing you can do. You know, this situation is unsolvable, or we have 2 million people on the ground working on it. And she didn't. She just said, I think you should get a team of people from Mayo Clinic, and I think you should go over there, which was the last thing that I was really expecting to, or wanting truly to do.
One of the problems coming in offering aid to organisations such as this is that they often know how to do it better than you do.
That's the downside of all of our great impulses to help, is that usually we don't know how. But I fully knew that. And so we went over there, and at the end, we brought a lot of very, very important, I think, supplies that we were able, very generously were donated to us. At the end of this week, he called me into his office, and I had my bags that we traveled back and forth with, and he said, Deborah, he has a French accent, so Deborah, many people come to my hospital and they shed their tears and they bring their wrapped sandwiches. And I was carrying a bag of wrapped sandwiches for the team. I mean, I'll never forget that. And he said, they come and they mean well and they leave and I never see them again. And in fact, that first day that I met him, he was 12 hours late because a young girl, 21, had been operated on by a very skilled urologic surgeons who had come from the United States to assist. And they had done this very complex procedure, and they had told him, now this is going to need to be reversed in 6 months after it's healed, or she'll go into kidney failure. And they never came back, and she went into kidney failure, and she died the day we got there. And he said, something tells me that you will not disappear. And I said, then you need to tell me what to do, because I don't know what to do. But if you tell me what to do, then I will try to do that. And he did. He just gave me a list, and I literally just go through the list, and some of the things that we can do, and some of the things we can't do. But I think we're going to give it our best shot.